Hi friends, it is day 13 in our 21-day journey together of fasting and prayer, and today we're going to talk about the seventh and last of our foundational practices in our Christian life. We have talked about the Word, fasting, prayer, serving, generosity, and worship, and today we're going to talk about rest, Sabbath rest. What does that look like in the life of a believer in Jesus? In Genesis 2:3, it says this: "Then God blessed the seventh day and he made it holy, because on it he rested from all the work of creating that he had done." And I just want to say this was, Genesis 2. This was way before the 10 Commandments and where he started talking to the Jewish people about the Sabbath. From the very beginning, he blessed the seventh day and he made it holy. Now, I think honestly, this is the hardest practice for us to truly incorporate into our lives in 2022. But once we do, it is a life-changing thing. It's kind of like generosity and tithing. It unlocks the door of God's blessing in our life. And in that same way, Sabbath is something that unlocks blessing in our lives from God, because it has to do with that trust issue, that if we will trust him to dedicate one day to him and not to ourselves, he will bless the rest of our week in such a major way. Now, Sabbath is the fourth of the 10 Commandments, but somehow we easily embrace the don't lie, don't steal, don't murder, but we forget that on those same tablets of stone, there was a commandment that God considered so important that it needed to be one of the 10, and that was rest, keeping the Sabbath. Let's read it from Exodus chapter 20 and verse 8. It says, "Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days you should labor and do all your work, but on the seventh day is the Sabbath to the Lord your God, and on it you shall not do any work." We were created to work and create and produce for 6 days and then to rest for one. That was designed by God that way from the very beginning. When we don't give our minds and emotions a break, our soul grows tired, our body wears down, and our ability to make good choices is compromised. If you have a weary soul, you can't pour yourself into others at home and work and wherever you're at. It is so needed to take that time of rest. Sabbath is a gift. God didn't have to give us a day of rest, but he did. And true rest, true peace, comes from him as a gift that we need to receive. It's not just an outward discipline. It has to be a spiritual exchange. We dedicate a day to God, and he gives us rest and peace in return. I love this verse from Matthew chapter 11, verse 28. It says, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened. I will give you rest." It's something we receive from the Lord. It also settles the issue of lordship and trust, because we have to actually surrender that it'll be okay even if we don't keep working on that day, that God will provide, that we'll have enough. When God told the Israelites to observe the Sabbath, they were an agricultural people, and taking a day off was a big deal. They had to trust God that they were going to be okay even if they didn't harvest or reap or sow on that day. The same thing with manna. When God would give them manna every day to provide for them to eat, he gave them twice as much on Friday so they wouldn't have to gather on Saturday. He wanted them to trust him, that he would be enough if they took that seventh day and dedicated it to him. It was also a reminder of their freedom. I love seeing that in Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 15. It says, "Remember that you were once slaves in Egypt, but the Lord your God brought you out of Egypt with his strong hand and powerful arm, and that is why the Lord your God commanded you to rest on the Sabbath day." They didn't used to have a choice to work or not. So this was a reminder that they are free. And we are free. We can choose. And when we choose to work, we can become slaves to the systems and mindsets of this world. We need to trust God enough to rest on that seventh day. And it reminds us of our freedom from sin, freedom from striving like the world does. We get to live set apart. Now, you can observe the Sabbath day in whatever way you feel God wants you to, but I want to encourage you that it does need to be incorporated into your life as a Christian. One of the days of the week, the seventh day, needs to be different than the other weeks, whatever you choose to do with it. It needs to be dedicated to God and holy. And I want to talk to you a little bit about how the Jewish people celebrate the Sabbath, the Shabbat they call it, because our faith has Jewish roots. Everything that we do comes from the Old Testament and from how the Jewish people were taught by God to live. And then Jesus was a Jewish Messiah. So every week, religious Jews around the world observe the Sabbath, the Jewish holy day, and they keep all these different customs. And I want to talk about them just a little bit. So the Sabbath for a Jew begins at nightfall on Friday and lasts all the way till evening on Saturday. It starts a few minutes before the sun sets on Friday, and it lasts about an hour after sunset on Saturday. So it's 25 hours of rest. Now that phrase of do not work on the Sabbath, the word for work there is melakah, which means working or creating. It's the same word that's used in Genesis when God created the world. So not only do Jewish people keep from working, but they also keep from creating or doing anything creative. Jews, the word for rest in Hebrew is the word Shabbat, Sabbath. So that's literally a reminder. The day is called rest. And it's a reminder also of the covenant that God has with them. It's part of the deal between God and the Jewish people. So celebrating it is a reminder of the covenant and a time of rejoicing in God's kept promises, which is the same in our lives. And of course, they look forward to it all week. They see it as a gift from God to his chosen people, a day when they get to take time out from everybody else and from everyday things to feel special. And it's a time with no television, no rushing to demands of the telephone or busy work schedules. They turn everything off. They don't use the phone on a Saturday, on the Shabbat. So they don't think about work or stressful things. It's like a little oasis of calm and a time of stillness in life. Sabbath is also very much so family time. It's when families come together in the presence of God in their own homes. They share a meal together and they celebrate the Sabbath together. If you're single or if you don't have family, you usually gather with other family or friends that will invite you over, and you form a group to celebrate together. A couple of the customs are this: to make sure that the Sabbath is special, all chores like shopping and cleaning and cooking and all of that is finished before sunset on Friday. And then people dress up and they go through considerable trouble to make sure that everything is organized, kind of like we would do for Christmas. Like everything is set before. We bake the cookies, we set the table so that we could just enjoy. The Jewish people do that every single week to make sure that the Sabbath is special. They light 2 candles at sunset on Friday. Usually the woman of the house will do this, and that marks the beginning of the Sabbath, and it represents the 2 commandments: to remember the Sabbath and to observe the Sabbath. Sachor and Shamor. That is represented by those 2 candles that they light. So what will remembering and observing the Sabbath look like in your life? Because we're commanded to remember and practice the Sabbath. So find a way to incorporate the beautiful spiritual practice of rest into your week. It opens you up to God's blessing for the rest of your week in a beautiful way and really connects you to the heart of God in your life. I have a couple of books that I want to recommend because this is something that you can study out on your own to see how you want to practice it in your life. And first of all, it's Take the Day Off by Robert Morris. The other one is The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer. And then The Emotionally Healthy Spirituality by Peter Scazzero. I want to just challenge you in 2022, if you've never done it before, make Sabbath rest a real part of your life. Dedicate a day to just family and God and rest, and see how God does not open the windows of heaven in the rest of your week.